All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for being with us. I just want to thank Director Stallings and the GEMA team, obviously all our local emergency management partners as well. We've got Commissioner McMurray and Georgia DOT here with us today, Lieutenant Colonel Kendrick Lowe, Department of Public Safety, Georgia State Patrol, Commissioner Walter Rabin, Department of Natural Resources. His team is out and about, standing by, getting ready to respond with chainsaw crews and other things if needed. Just wanted to give you a quick update on what we've done already to prepare for this winter storm. Yesterday, as you know, I issued the state of emergency for the entire state that runs through January 28th. We'll obviously be fluid on that if needed. The executive order does the same things that we did a week or so ago. Authorizes up 250 members of the Georgia National Guard if needed. Lets DOT get to treating roads and things that they've been doing since Sunday. And this is a large area that Commissioner McMurray will give you an extensive update on what's different about what we're facing now versus what we faced a week ago. Also, to help them be able to move around easy and easily deploy other state assets, we closed state offices, including Capitol Hill today, giving most of our managers and team leaders discretion on whether to open or not, depending on where they are in the state, but just trying to keep people off the roads, let all our folks that we need to be available to focus on preparation. So we got that going on. Also, GEMA and Director Stallings will give an update to close this out, but we're in constant local contact with the EMAs and coordinating with a lot of state agencies, not just on snow and ice and participation, but also things like rural water as to freezing pipes and other things. We've got local warming stations are active, and then also obviously our utility partners are standing by in case we have power outages and other things. So we're going to let Will Langston give you a weather update, because this is really kind of a moving target. It's a lot different from what we were dealing with last week. So we'll let Will do that. Then we'll let Commissioner Murray talk to you about what his team's doing to prep and be ready. Director Stallings will wrap us up, and then we'll take your questions. Will?
Thanks, sir. So we're already starting to see some snowfall show up on the radar in Georgia. We're starting to see it move through southern Alabama, reaching the ground. We're seeing some snowfall reports there. That's expected to continue to move into Georgia throughout the morning and into this afternoon. It's going to take a little bit of time for the snow to reach the ground because the air is so dry it has to actually be saturated to hit the ground. So we could be seeing it on radar throughout the day, but it might take a couple hours or so to actually reach the ground. But once it does so, it could start to accumulate quite quickly, and road conditions could deteriorate pretty rapidly this afternoon as it moves in. There's a winter storm warning in effect for all of central and south Georgia. Counties under the winter storm warning could receive up to 5 inches of snow this afternoon and evening. And then parts of North Georgia, including all of Metro Atlanta, are under a winter weather advisory. That is for up to 2 inches of snow this afternoon and evening. Anywhere that we see snowfall accumulate, we could see, like I mentioned, roads deteriorate very quickly because the air temperatures are going to be near or below freezing and ground temperatures are just above freezing. That snow could melt and then instantly refreeze, similar to past weather events that we've had in the state. So I'd encourage you to stay off the roads this afternoon and evening if at all possible. Because the temperatures tonight are going to be so cold, anything that sticks today is going to stick around tonight and tomorrow. We're going to get a lot of sunshine tomorrow, which hopefully will help to melt and dry what falls, but it's not going to be very much above freezing, so we could see these impacts lingering through Thursday morning as well. This could be a multi-day event. It is a statewide event. We're not typically used to seeing snowfall amounts like this in middle and south Georgia. We could see snow anywhere in the state, but the highest amounts are forecast to be in central Georgia and parts of south Georgia this afternoon and evening.
Thank you, Will, for that update. The Georgia Department of Transportation started efforts Sunday morning to basically pre-treat the entire state, starting with our interstates and our critical routes. And we indeed have done that from Florida to Tennessee and from Alabama to South Carolina. Again, focusing on the interstates and the very high-volume critical routes first. So we have done what we can in efforts to get ahead of this very large, impactful potential for winter weather. And so now we're at the time of seeing the forecast change a little bit and seeing some increase in snowfall, especially in middle and southwest Georgia. And so we're beginning to reposition some of those brine tankers and move them a little further south to try to be able to respond to the freeze or melt and refreeze that Will just talked about in the next day or so. This is, again, a large potential for impact. I have to remind everybody that we cannot be everywhere at once. In fact, the I-20 below area consists of almost 25,000 miles of roadway if we were to treat just 2 lanes. To give you some perspective, that's driving to LA and back to Atlanta 6 times. So this is a very big event. We have 448 snow plows with people ready to go when the winter precipitation starts to fall. But it's just going to take a lot of time to clear that bigger roadway. And again, in areas that are not traditionally getting snow. And so we will continue to be agile, look to shift our resources in the directions that we need to go as this snow comes in and potential for freezing rain or ice in the very south part of the state. We see pavement temperatures now from I-85 north being below freezing, but I-85 south to all the way to the state line being above freezing at the moment, which again gives us concern as the snow comes down that it will melt and then refreeze very fast. So this is very reminiscent of what happened in 2014, of where that happened, which causes tremendous travel impacts. Now, what's different from 2014 is obviously we've got a good layer of brine down on most of all the roads. Again, the interstates, the critical routes we are addressing, and we'll continue to address the other state routes across the entire state. This is just going to take time. And so we're asking everybody to just please give time. That means stay at home, try to stay off the roadways. We've seen Metro Atlanta traffic volumes be down just slightly this morning as the state of emergency works, of people sending the message for people to stay home and stay off the roads, and statewide down about 20%. But we really need that cooperation so we can do our job once the snow comes in, and we have a big territory to cover, and we'll stay with it until we can finish and make sure it's safe. But again, just be weather aware and make sure that you're seeing what's going on and trying to stay off the roadway so we can do our job. Now I'd like to turn it over to Director Stallings.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor, Commissioner McMurray. It's extremely important that the Governor did declare the state of emergency early. What does that do for us? That gives us the ability to start pre-positioning. And so we put out a lot of assets. As Commissioner McMurray mentioned, we learned some lessons from 2014. Some of those were getting assets closer to the area, the impacted area, but also taking, you can't get behind a storm like this. We mentioned that last week, and it's extremely important for this event as well. But something else that's important to mention is that not only are we monitoring road temperatures, we're also monitoring ground temperatures. And currently right now, those ground temperatures, 4 to 6 inches under the ground, are just a few degrees above freezing. And so as this cold temperature settles, there's going to be a concern for water pipes under the ground. So make sure that if you are in your home, you get those pipes, get those faucets dripping. Go ahead and start that preemptive action. As we saw 2 years ago during Thanksgiving, when we have these extended periods of single-digit and teen temperatures, there's a lot of water pipes that are going to bust. It's going to be in the walls and things of that nature. So make sure that we continue to focus on that. Our critical patients are extremely important. Our sensitive communities. If you have loved ones that are up in age, keep an eye on them. If they lose power over the next couple days, that needs to be addressed quickly. So we've pre-positioned generators so that we can work with communities. We do have one report of death as a result of hypothermia from a critical needs patient that got outside last night. Unfortunately for that family, that's the exact situation that we're talking about. So we want to make sure that we're focused on that recovery and that quick efforts, so we're taking that very seriously. And finally, the last thing I want to mention to you, and it's been mentioned again, is give us space. We need that space to work. Those miles of roads don't clear themselves. We've got to get those trucks out there. We've got to get involved. As you might imagine, South Georgia's not accustomed to a lot of snow and ice, and so it's different there. The roads are different. There's a lot of dirt roads that have to be treated differently than just snow plows and brine and things of that nature. So we're going to have to focus on that and making sure we give a proper recovery. But GMA's certainly here standing by with the governor's direction. Warming stations, you can go to our website, gma.georgia.gov. There's a list of warming stations and needs and things of that nature. Also following our social medias, we ask that you in the media please share that stuff. As you might imagine, this is, yes, it's a metro event, but your market's not necessarily covering everywhere that this is going to hit. So the more you share it, the more we can get the word out. So we appreciate the cooperation. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Director Stallings. We'll open it up for questions if
Governor,
anybody.
this is the real deal. This is not a drill. This is what was forecast as being almost the worst case scenario is coming. Is that an accurate assessment?
Well, that's one reason I wanted Will to go early in the press conference versus wrapping us up like last time, because I think this weather's so different from last time. We've got a much bigger area like we dealt with Hurricane Helene. You know, it's just a lot wider than most normal storms that we have. We also have the ability, the line, as Will talked about, when you think about Columbus, Macon, Augusta, and then the metro line, which is really kind of Atlanta to Athens and Gainesville. There's a big difference in those two lines. You're talking 4 to 5 inches in middle Georgia and below, and then a couple of inches in metro Atlanta. But if those things shift just a little bit, it can create a lot of havoc. So us, like Commissioner McMurray was talking about, trying to prepare and trying to treat and then trying to respond to such a large area is going to be much different than we saw last week when we just had, quite honestly, some nice snowfall in metro Atlanta. People stayed home and enjoyed that in the morning before things got really cold. This is kind of the reverse of that. It's really cold now, so as soon as we get participation, like Will said, if that participation hits the ground, melts, and then refreezes, all of a sudden you're going to have a lot of chaos out there on the roadways. That's why, you know, people are riding around now but maybe thinking, you know, why are y'all warning us about this? But this could deteriorate very quickly, like it did in 2014. That's what we're trying to avoid. Number one, with messaging for people to adhere to our advice, and I thank them so much for doing that our last storm, but also us getting ahead of things like Russell was talking about. The brining that we've been doing since Sunday to help prepare will be helpful, give people time to get moved, get home, get situated. But if this thing hits like it looks like it's coming, and we do get, you know, 3 to 5 inches of snow in a Columbus, Macon, Augusta line, we're just going to have a big territory to be dealing with in rural parts of our state. And lastly, like was mentioned earlier, our local communities in that part of the state and south are just not prepared like people are in the metro Atlanta and up in the northern part of the state.
So you've got exponentially more equipment than you had in 2014, right? But that fuchsia area on the map behind you is huge. Are we going to be spread thin in spite of all that?
Well, I can just tell you this: we're going to give it everything we got with everything we got. Governor
Kemp, could you also talk about you mentioned about the populations that are most at risk and what they need to know? People who are watching now, should they stay in terms of I think it was the 4 Ps. Could you walk through people again, just so that they know how to be prepared, please?
You want to talk about that?
So, in preparation, thinking about the next couple days, you know, this is not a run on grocery stores. It's not a go buy all the bread, milk, and eggs that you can get your hands on event. This is going to be with us for 36, 48 hours. As I said in the last storm, most everything you've got in your house right now is fine. You'll be just fine. It's more about preparing yourself for the water freezing, your pets being outside, things of that nature. Also preparing your phones. Go ahead and charge those devices should you have a power outage. It's also important that you're thinking about a plan should you lose power, or how are you going to warm. So go ahead and get blankets out. Using smart heater and generator safety. You know, don't run those generators in garages. Keep it away from windows. So basic understandings of how to get through the next few days. The temperatures are cold. but turning those faucets on and doing simple preparations are the key to getting through this event.
What time should people be off the road? We all remember 2014, folks being stuck on the roadways. So what time should they be off the road?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. Will, I don't know if you got noon? Yeah. You want to talk, just recap one more time, kind of what we're seeing in the weather? And
So the reason it's difficult is, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to take some time for that snow to reach the ground. But the concern is that once it does, it could start to accumulate very quickly and cause roads to not be passable in very short order. So I would say in the metro area and parts of middle Georgia, you probably want to be where you're going to be for a couple days by noon today, early afternoon at the latest, because we'll start to see things rapidly deteriorate this afternoon.
Well, the north edge, if you can estimate, the counties closest to Metro Atlanta, what do you think the north edge will be for that 3 to 5 inches you mentioned?
So for the 3 to 5 inches, the winter storm warning area, so probably south of Metro, but you could get pretty serious impacts from just an inch or two, which is the winter weather advisory area. Right now, models are indicating maybe the I-85 corridor on the north and east side of town might be where that delineation occurs, but it's really difficult to forecast, and there's going to be a gradient. There will be a point where one county gets nothing and the next county gets an inch or two. It's very difficult because you're talking about maybe tens of miles between nothing and a lot.
Speaking of we talked about potential for a power outage. Governor, has your office had any conversation with utility companies about a contingency and how to best, go after that if it happens?
well, that's why we do the early state of emergency. Director Stallings mentioned about that. The operations center's up. We got our team here. We're already in communications with our partners, Georgia Power, EMCs, our city electrics, local emergency management agencies, rural water. I mean, we're treating this like, any other storm we got. We're in touch with all our partners, all our private sector partners, all our resources, and, they're ready to deploy. I mean, thankfully, we have a battle-tested team, not only here, but also our utility partners are as well, and we certainly saw that in Hurricane Helene.
The
What
patients
impacts could
who
we
died,
see
do
at
you have any
Atlanta
information
Airport,
about them?
sir? I don't know who's more qualified to answer this, but we're already seeing up to 90-minute delays, a lot of folks leaving for the college football playoff. Can anyone talk about that?
Well, I'm just glad this storm's coming midday, not this morning, to help get our visitors out of town. Great celebration last night for the college football playoffs, being back here for the second time in the CFP area. I haven't really heard a whole lot of updates from the airport. I mean, they're obviously used to dealing with winter weather as well. There's been a lot of logistical challenges with everything that was going on in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Certainly we're feeling that some here, but also from the playoffs. But right now I think everything's operational at the airport. I know they're doing just like we are. They're preparing, and they'll be ready, and then we'll just keep you guys updated when we're getting reports from them.
Mr. Lexton, what about first responders? When people are worried about making sure they can get an ambulance or someone out to help them, what is your message to those people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that's another great reason to stay off the roads today, because if you get in an accident, you might be hindering first responders from getting to where they need to go. So again, my message would be to try and get to where you're going to be for the next day or two by early this afternoon, and give the Department of Transportation the room that they need to do their work on the roads, but also stay off so that first responders can get where they need to be.
And I think there's a really good point there that we've talked about a lot is by people staying off the roads. If let's say we got tractor trailers that are having to move fuel or whatever else coming through the state, and they have an accident or experience something like we saw up on 285 in the last storm. We had very little of those last storm. In 2014, we had them everywhere. And so you can't get to people to get them moved, so you can keep brining, so you can keep plowing, so you can keep putting salt out. So the less people we got on the roads, if we do have something like that happen, it allows us to get to those people, clear that roadway, which is imperative if we're trying to get fire trucks or ambulances and our first responders to people that need them. So again, I know it's aggravating dealing with these things, but if people can just do what they need to do in the next hour or so, limit their travel, as Director Stallings said, give people plenty of space between you, so if you get caught out there and things deteriorate quickly, you can respond and react. and let's just, you know, hunker down for a day or so and get some sunshine and warmer weather back in here.
Colonel, for those people who may unfortunately find themselves on the road, could you give us some basic driving tips?
Well, during this time, we ask them to slow down and be patient. You know, if they choose to get out and have to drive in this type of weather, we will have troopers and motor carriers out to assist motorists. If they get stranded out, we'll have them out to assist with motorists and work accidents if needed throughout the state.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. We'll keep you updated.
Thank you, Governor.
Check that out.